It's Sabres Live on location Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week for the NHL Draft. As promised, Kevyn Adams has joined us to dive in. We're getting very close to that first round window tonight. Marty and I were very curious to know just what's the tenor been like in the scouting meetings, the final rankings, if you will, leading up to this selection, especially on the heels of a year where you had 3 first-rounders last year. So what's it like when you're focused on just the one again?
Well, yeah, last year was, I think I said this, was really unique in the sense of, we had capital if even to trade up, so to higher than our first pick was. So we literally were thinking every single potential pick in the first round was someone that it could be available to us. So it was a different scenario. Not that you don't prepare the same way and go through your list, but this year a little more locked in on a certain group of players. But in saying that, I've had a lot of conversations, especially over the last 48 hours, with teams in front of us about what it would take to move up, and also with teams behind us, and what would we be willing to do. And as every year, I love the debates. What I do is I challenge our staff to do it in a respectful way where everybody's voice is respected and heard, but we have to debate. We have to challenge each other, and I have to understand the passion and why someone has, even if it's the same rating in our system, but why they would put this person ahead of this person. And it's the fun part of the job, but it's hard. And I ask a lot of questions, and over the years I've learned that you have to just listen more than talk in my position. You have to take in all the information and make sure you're asking the appropriate questions. And we still got one more short meeting to go, and we've been going hard, but we're still finalizing our list.
What changes then in those meetings? Because you do have a lot of meetings. I don't know if people realize just how many times you kind of reconvene before this actually happens.
People would be blown away by the amount of hours that we put into this. And then even when you're not in formal meetings, we have a staff dinner last night, and you're still talking about it. I'm like, wait, is this a real meeting or is this a dinner meeting? So, it can be something as simple. I'll give you an example. It may be, man, we have these players projected exactly the same. And we have a whole rating system, so, I don't want to get into the details of it, but exactly a system that we use. And they may have 2 players, one of the scouts, that is rated exactly the same in their mind, but maybe one's a center, one's a wing. Maybe one's a right shot D, maybe one's a left shot D. So those are the little maybe tiebreakers here or there that push you over the edge. But then ultimately, that's my job to take in all the information and then say, here's what I want it to kind of be final.
Not only do you have a lot of meetings, but those meetings could be long. So do you have a hourglass like that you flip over when you talk about a player? Is there a clock? Do you have sometimes to say time out? Does it get heated?
It does, yeah. It gets definitely heated. I like, instead of heated, I say passionate. You know, people get very passionate, which I like. Yeah. But I will share a little story. I don't know, especially once you get to the draft, I feel like hours are out the door. I mean, meet all day, night, mornings, doesn't matter. But Terry Pagula last night at dinner had a stopwatch on his phone he showed me, and the countdown to the draft, and this is how much time you have, Kevin. And he pulled it out this morning, and it was still running. So just to remind me that the draft's today, in case I didn't know. But
and it is 7 Eastern, 6 Central.
I should ask him about that. Did he count that hour in there? I can't remember.
Does the phone adjust to when it goes from Eastern time zone to Central time zone?
Yeah, so
that's awesome. And again, it just kind of speaks to how connected you have always been with him, and then I don't want to say trickle down, but just the connection that you have with everybody else in the department. So how would you describe your amateur scouting department, the scouts themselves, the leaders of your department? How would you describe them in a word or two, if that's possible?
Yeah, and in a word, I would say prepared.
Okay.
They do an unbelievable job of preparing for this day. And when I mean preparing, it's some of these players, it's 24 months ago, starting to watch these players in their underage draft year. And actually, even, Connor Bedard, I remember a double underage at the U18s in Dallas. So, I mean, there's a history of these players. But what I love about the way Jerry Fortin works with the staff in these meetings is he'll say, okay, here's a USHL player, whatever the name is, and Tristan, explain exactly who this player is. So Tristan Musser covers the USHL, and he's going to go, okay, boom, and then he's going to. And it's not reading. He is giving you the description of the player. So if you close your eyes and you're envisioning what he's talking about, that's probably what I mean by prepared. I just feel like our staff, and this isn't just the top players in the draft. This is players that all the way down our list that could be 7th-round draft picks or they don't even get drafted, and they can do that with every one of these players. So just kind of puts it in perspective for our fans and everyone out there, just the amount of due diligence and the amount of work that our scouts put in.
Now you know what it's like for me to work next to him, because I can throw him anything.
He's got
and
it.
just like your guys.
Well, this is just prepared in life. Marty's just
exactly.
He's
I
just
do like
prepared.
Jerry. I rarely have the laptop closed. It's always open. There's always a tab with some information and books. I have books like you have.
I
books.
know. I
took that from you, though. I remember when we started at the academy, you always had your books, and I got books, and then I write on top of it the years, and I keep them in a box, and I go back to them.
So I've learned this from Terry Pagula. I color code things.
Yes.
So now it's blue means this, red means this, different color notebooks for if I'm talking to a general manager, if it's pro scouting, amateur scouting, so I can have it all in front of me. I don't know. People probably think that's disorganized, but in my own mind, it works somehow. And
okay, well, about this. So the draft is the focus right now, but we are Wednesday, and on Saturday is free agency. So you're preparing for free agency, but I want to talk internally more about a guy like Rasmus Dahlin, right? Like July 1, there could be an extension now that he has a year left. Where are we with that, with Dahlin? And do you expect it to be easy, hard, early, late? Like, what is that dynamic?
Well, I think it's never easy. You start with that, no matter what contract you're doing.
I mean, the cap. We know now that the
yeah.
cap is going to go to 83.5,
Yeah, yep.
and 16.7 million is the maximum a player can make.
Right.
Yeah,
no, there's
easy asking for 16.7 million.
Yeah. What I can tell you is the good news of how these things are compared to maybe where we were a couple years ago is we're aligned on what we both want, and he wants to be a Buffalo Sabre. He wants to be a Buffalo Sabre for a long time, believes in what we're doing here. We met yesterday with his agents and with Newport Sports in the boardroom and Terry Pagula was in the meeting as well with us, and just really had a great conversation. It was a really good meeting. These they take time, and we don't feel, neither side feels there's any pressure or stress that there's something has to be done and immediately, but we're working towards it. We're in a good spot. They know how we feel, and I think the biggest thing is when I think about the players in our core that we've either maybe potentially locked up long term already, and then the players that we want to continue to do that with moving forward, I need to really understand if this is what they want and truly want to be here and they believe in it, and it's unequivocally yes. So that's a big deal to me, and we're going to keep working at it, but it'll take time.
Is it harder to do Owens in the sense that he hasn't been here as long, and there's obviously a greater variable because Dahlin has already gone through a bridge and things like that? Yeah,
I think there is a marketplace, and we have also met with Pat Brisson and CAA, and we'll continue to, and Pat's met with Owen's family and discussed this. So these are detailed conversations that we've already had that we'll continue to go through the process and have. But there's a marketplace, Duffer. But what's always interesting is nobody can see the future in terms of what the cap is, right? So from the agent side, you're trying to project out where do hockey-related revenues go over the next, when you're talking about, massive extensions, term, you're looking at what is it going to be like 3, 5, 7, 8 years down the road. So they're trying to do that, and then they're saying, okay, well, what's the dollar amount in today's dollars versus what is that going to look like 6, 7, 8 years down the road? And so we're doing the same thing.
Right.
We're projecting out exactly what that means. Also thinking about, okay, well, here's some young players that aren't even on our team yet, but in 5 years, what could their contract look like? And that's why Mark Jakubowski doesn't sleep, because I just tell him, just keep doing this over and over.
He looks good though. I haven't seen him in a while. He looks really good on this trip. So maybe he's found that balance with the demands.
This is
of
Nashville, humid air, just wears Mark out maybe.
The heat tomorrow and
excessive heat value. I haven't written.
Well, this is the walk over here. Other than I went for a run really early this morning, and other than the walk over here, I think I've been outside maybe once since I got here. So
you've been in air conditioned.
Yeah,
nice
so I'm doing
cool.
fine, but not a lot of time to be sightseeing.
And quickly, obviously, a couple of guys that you re-signed, and we were talking about culture and how you're building your team. And I think culture sometimes is overused, but if it's in the right context, it's exactly what teams are striving for. And Kyle Okposo, Zemgus Girgensons, re-signing. What was that process like? And What would those conversations like to what their role is going to be next year?
And what was the likelihood that you were going to have both of them back when the season actually ended? Like, what were you thinking?
Well, yeah, first of all, I think it says a lot about those two players and those two individuals to be willing to come back on one-year deals when they can go to the free agent market, and both of them would be in demand. I can tell you that based on the careers they've had and the leaders and who they are. But the good part for me right after the season was I meet with every player, as you guys know, and I told both of them that you're absolutely a priority. We would love to have you back and be part of this. We feel we're about to take a big step, and you guys are going to be part of that. But we need to do it on a one-year deal, and it was just very honest in explaining why that is, and then it gave both of them time to think about it, ask the right questions. You have their agents talk to me, and then we went from there. But I just think they're very reliable, consistent teammates day in and day out that the coaching staff can count on, but that also their impact in our locker room and on and off the ice will be felt for years and years. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is I just don't think that you can say when you sit next someone in a locker room, for a year as a 19 or 20-year-old player that when they're 30, they don't remember what it was like sitting. You think about the guys you sat next to, and and I remember Eric Stahl's rookie year, he was sitting when I was in Carolina, he was sitting between Ron Francis and Rod Brindamore, and like those guys is 1 year next to him, but this stuff matters. So I just feel like with how we're building this team and how we want to move forward, we have to also surround our young players with the right people, and those two are unbelievable examples of what it is to be a Sabre.
You're going to add more young players tonight. Realistically, is it a group of like 4 or 5 players you think it's whittled down to that are likely to be in your position if you stay
a
at 13?
feather in your lap?
A feather in your lap?
I don't want to know what that means, but
that's a Wheel of Fortune reference gone wrong.
I will say, that feels, that I would say 4 to 6 players.
Okay.
We're very serious about looking at options to move up.
Yeah.
We're also looking at options to move back, but as you guys know from previous drafts, it's not easy to do that. It just based on where people have their lists, but we're gonna really be aggressive if it makes sense for us to do that, and so we'll see how it shakes out. But it's an exciting day for sure.
Thank you. Have fun with the entire group. I know that sounds kind of silly, but I think you do try to always include that in everything you're doing.
Have to. Like, I mean, honestly, when you wake up and I'm one of the luckiest people in the world to be able to get up and do this, and no matter what kind of stress or pressure, you have to take a breath, and you have to always go back to this is an amazing opportunity, and today's a great day to help our franchise, and that's what gets me excited.
Great for us and for our audience today to have Kevyn Adams setting up tonight, which is round 1 of the draft. We, of course, will have live reaction on our social channels, Facebook and Twitter, as the Sabres right now are slotted to pick number 13.